This podcast is sponsored by the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is a catalyst for growth and prosperity and is here to protect and promote business, inspire innovation, cultivate communities, and influence action. Learn more at fmwfchamber.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inforum Business Beat podcast. This is your host, Thomas Evanella. As always, I'm here to get you up to speed on all the latest business news, and after that, we'll have my fellow reporter, Tammy Swift, drop by to tell us about one of her recent stories. With all that said, let's get it started. Leading off this week, we have yet another update on Romantics and their proposed move to Broadway in downtown Fargo. Owners of Romantics filed a lawsuit against the City of Fargo and City Planning Director Nicole Crutchfield Tuesday, October 25th. The lawsuit alleges that the city's denial of a change of use permit for Romantics violates the First and 14th Amendments and is therefore unconstitutional. The lawsuit, as reporter Helmut Schmidt writes, asks for a declaratory judgment against the city and Crutchfield, damages, attorney fees and costs, and preliminary and permanent injunctions to prevent further actions denying Romantics the right to move. City officials declined to comment on the lawsuit as of Friday afternoon, October 28th. Legend Sports Bar and Grill, located at the Rose Creek Public Golf Course, has closed. The restaurant closed its doors for good Saturday night, October 29th. The closing was announced earlier in the week via Facebook, with Legend's owners thanking customers for their patronage. Caroline Boutain, enterprise director for the Fargo Park District, wrote in a memo that a search for a new tenant would begin. Meanwhile, Legend Sports Bar is still in operation across the river in Moorhead. Essentia Health will be relocating its Fargo Family Clinic to the MedPark Medical Center complex at the intersection of 45th Street South and 32nd Avenue South. The new clinic will take patients starting December 1st, a letter written to patients said. With the move, the clinic will be expanding its hours to offer walk-in services 7 days a week. Essentia plans to spend more than $1.1 million to renovate the 8,000 square foot space, and hours of operations will be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. We have more downtown Fargo news to share as a new restaurant named Little Brother has opened along Broadway. Little Brother held their soft opening on Halloween, with their full opening taking place the following day. The restaurant serves up Korean, Thai, and Vietnamese dishes. Specifically, menu items include crispy chicken wings, caramelized pork, basil chicken, and more. The appetizer menu includes favorites such as wontons, edamame, and gyoza. Hours for Little Brother are 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and 4:30 to 9:30 p.m. daily. Another Sonic Drive-In will soon be in business in South Fargo. Construction is underway for the restaurant at 5205 27th Street South, near Interstate 29 along 52nd Avenue South. According to city building permit records, the 1,227 square foot restaurant will check in at a cost of $1.1 million. The location will be the second for Sonic in Fargo. The first is located not that far away at 4470 26th Avenue South. A West Fargo family has started a business using state-of-the-art technology to make signs of the states. Alan and Lori Kent had previously owned a trucking business before they started Made with Love by Lori. The Kent family also happened to own a plasma cutting machine which had been collecting dust in their basement. Lori put the machine to work one day to make a cutout sign of North Dakota to display in her office at her new accounting job. The sign drew a lot of attention, prompting Lori to start making signs full-time. Since then, the Kents have sold their signs all across the country. One of their best sellers is their Home is on Both Sides series, which features various states to connect families across the country. The Kent's business continues to grow, with all of their signs made one by one with local components. Their offerings can be found at a variety of retailers across the metro area and on their website.
Stay connected to your community and save. Just 99 cents a month gets you 3 months of unlimited access to Inform.com. Visit inform.com/subscribe and get your first 3 months of news for only 99 cents a month.
It's been a few weeks since we've had my fellow reporter Tammy Swift here on the podcast. This week, Tammy will be visiting to tell us about her recent story about Emily Bloom, a local woman who started a small business selling cat condos and quickly became a TikTok sensation. Well, Tammy, thanks for joining us today. And, I do have a question to start things off here. Before we really get into it, is it safe to say that you are now the forum's de facto cat reporter?
I will proudly accept that title. I mean, you can be called all kinds of things when you work for a newspaper, and I will happily take that title if you are willing to give it to me, Thomas.
And so, if it isn't obvious enough already for listeners, we're here to discuss one of Tammy's newest pet themed stories, and it's all about a new small business that started here in Fargo building cat condos. So, Tammy, just to get things started, tell us about how you first heard about Emily Bloom and the cat condos that she's been making.
Well, that part is pretty straightforward. Our editor, Angie Wick, actually gave me the assignment. But then, and sometimes when you get assignments from editors, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. But with this one, the minute I saw it, I was off to the races. It's always kind of exciting when local people do something that goes viral on social media. But then when I saw the condos that she made and all the creativity and detail and time she put into it, that was just right up my alley. I love quirky things like that. I felt like it was a mini masterpiece. And overall, I just had to do it. So I was so excited to go out and do this story.
So, how did Emily even get involved in doing this? What is like the genesis of all of this? Because this is an interesting hobby to take up.
It certainly is. It's not something we all think of like, oh, I think I'm going to build a very elaborate house for my cat. I know you have a cat, and I've never heard of you doing that. So
I have not done this, actually.
No, you have not, but maybe now you have to.
Yeah.
She said it actually stemmed from kind of a sad thing in her life. She had this longtime rabbit named Sona, and Sona was like the alpha rabbit of their household. One thing she told me that kind of surprised me was that, we think of bunnies as cuddly and sweet and helpless. And she said, actually, they can be quite fierce. They can actually have quite an attitude. And Sona was very good at running the household. And so she had 4 cats and 3 bunnies. And Sona disciplined all of them, was totally in charge. When the cats were kittens, they would try like scratching or biting. She would totally smack down on them. And I don't even really know how they do that. I think they thump their feet and they do other fierce things. And so anyway, she taught the cats how to respect the rabbits so that the traditional prey and predator could live together very happily. So anyway, so needless to say, Sona was a big deal in her life. And she said he also died in the middle of the pandemic and had been such a comfort to her and her husband when they had to shelter in place. And so it was just devastating when this happened. And she just had so much grief. And she had grown up in this very creative family. And so she decided to kind of do something that she had always practiced to a certain amount. She had always been kind of artistic. And so she thought she was just going to take on this really elaborate project. And she's also a collector of mid-century modern furniture. And so she just happened to have this 1970s television in her basement. And so she decided she was going to turn that into a cat house.
And so tell us about some of the designs that she's come up with. I mean, honestly, having looked at the photos in your story, they look a lot nicer than a lot of apartments.
They honestly do. I think if you could put this in a maximizer machine, I think you or I would be very happy to live in these houses. And the beauty of it is she used like almost all thrift store things. So, I mean, it's not like she spent like thousands of dollars doing this. She just had an eye for decorating. And so she had this vintage wallpaper that her grandma gave her. And she built a mid-century couch, which was cat-sized, and like those old wooden jewelry boxes they had in the 70s and 80s. She found some that looked exactly like little tiny dresser drawers. She incorporated that. She had these teeny tiny little paintings and mirrors. She had potted plants. I don't even know where you find stuff like this. And she just decorated it as elaborately as an actual house. And she even said that. She said she loves doing it because it was almost like designing your own mid-century modern house. And so she did all this. The cats loved it. You know how cats are. They love anything cave-like, anything that allows them to look down at you, any boxes or things like that. Well, a TV set's very box-like. And so she said it didn't take too much prompting, and her cats loved hanging out in that box. And so anyway, after it was all finished, she posted the house on TikTok and she went to bed and she didn't think anything of it. She thought, my parents my family and my friends will probably like this. And she woke up and she had 37,000 views and it just kept growing. And it grew to the point, I think it's had now well over 400,000 likes and 1.4 million views from people all over the world. And so then she was contacted by the Daily Pause website. They wanted to feature it as a video. And so in the process, she also ended up making a giant toadstool house for her rabbits, and which was equally as elaborate and cool.
I think one of the best parts about this story, though, is that the houses that she has been building just mirror the whimsy of her own house. I mean, that place, again, looking at the pictures, was loaded with plants, loaded with decorations. Was that kind of your assessment as well?
Absolutely. And she even said that. She said, I wanted something that kind of fit in with the aesthetic of our house, and it totally did. And I think like when I showed these pictures to John Lamb, my coworker, many of you know him, he said, it almost looks like a Wes Anderson set piece. It looks like a Wes Anderson movie. And I was like, bingo, that is perfect. It does. And so when I passed that along to her, she was so flattered. She goes, oh my God, I love Wes Anderson. So obviously she had been very influenced by him as well as her own artistic gifts. And she just created something that was her to a T.
And we've discussed a lot about how people have begun starting to spend more and more money on their pets, a lot more time, investing a lot more time and effort into their pets as well. And I mean, rightfully so. Everybody loves their pets. I don't know that I would do this just because I feel like my cats would just prefer the cardboard box that just came in the mail. But, this kind of takes it to a whole nother level, though, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can buy some pretty elaborate like pet trees and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I had a cat too, Thomas, and I know like the more you spend on something, the more likely they are to ignore it and then just go play with a ball of foil. I mean, it's almost like to defy you sometimes. And so I don't know if I would do this. But I think for her, it was just as much almost like a art therapy and just a chance to express this very creative side. And then in the process, her pets just got something super cool in the bargain. So it was cool.
And so obviously, like you said, Emily's kind of gained a lot of notoriety from this. What is next for her? I mean, do we see a full-fledged business endeavor here, or is this gonna say a hobby sort of for her?
Wouldn't it be cool if she just became known as like the global cat condo and rabbit hutch lady, who just became known for these super deluxe specialized environments for pets. And I think she could do it. She has a website. It's called 9livesvintagefm.com, and 9 is a figure. And And she's actually selling a couple of additional TV houses that she's made for cats. And they are even more elaborate. They almost kind of remind me of like a 1970s Vegas hotel room. They've got like kind of satin bedspreads, and one even has a mirror on the ceiling, which is hilarious. They have fireplaces, and she's selling them. And I'm not sure what she's selling them for. She's having people click on them to inquire, ask about them. But it would just be so cool if people would just start ordering these types of houses from her, because she is certainly good at it.
And that was Tammy Swift, my fellow reporter, bringing us the latest on her story about Emily Bloom and her budding cat condo enterprise. Tammy, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for bringing me up to speed on this, because, maybe I will need to pick one of these up and give it a side-by-side test with the next cardboard box that comes in.
I would love that. I think we should try it.
That's going to wrap up this week's edition of the Inforum Business Beat podcast. Be sure to check back next week, but in the meantime, stay up to date by visiting inforum.com/business.